Right to be Read podcast, episode number 8. Writing can save your life. Interview with fantasy writer Ksenia Anske.
You are listening to the Right to be Read podcast, and this is your host, Ani Alexander.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Right to be Read podcast. Today, I'm interviewing a crazy fantasy writer, Ksenia Anske. All she does is read and write, and also, besides that, she's pathologically immature and gives out her books for free. Hello, Ksenia. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. What a nice introduction. How are you?
I'm fine, too. I would like to start with saying that I met you on Twitter. That's where I noticed you first, and I was amazed by the energy you had and the aura you were spreading by encouraging writers to write and keep on writing. Where does it come from?
Writing pulled me out of dark times. I was suicidal, I was depressed, and so writing kind of pulled me out of it, and I'm very passionate about it, I guess. Try to help people to see that, it's not really about money, it's not really about fame or success. It just makes you happy. A lot of people, when you start out, you're afraid and you look at the business and all these other authors and books, and it's very intimidating. And we forget that, it's art. We just start doing it because we love doing it. And so I guess that's why I'm passionate about it.
Okay, well, definitely your passion can be felt from other people. From even people who don't know you personally, and it's really very impressive. So that's the second thing that surprised me when I visited your website. I saw that although you have the books on Amazon and some other places, you also offer everything you have for free as well. So how does it work? Because I know that you're not working, you don't have a day job. So how are you managing? Does it work? Do people support you by buying your books or donating on your website, or how is it?
Actually, I'm making more money via donations than via my book sales. I think last year I calculated it was close to 60% that I made from donations and only 40% from book sales.
Okay, amazing. So can you say that your main strategy is, besides creating good quality content and very nice books, also building relationship with your readers?
This is the only reason I write for, is to build relationships with people. They're, like family to me. I've connected with so many people on such deep level that money is kind of out of question, in the way that I try to give them my art, and if they want to support me, they will support me. So I can tell them, hey, I'm running out of money, or would you guys like to help me write this book, or what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And people just want to give you back. This is our nature, If somebody gives to you, you just want to go back. And I guess that's what's been happening. At first I was really, really scared. And at the same time, I thought I was really close to killing myself. And I thought if I didn't write these books, I wouldn't be here. So it really doesn't matter. So I vowed to give them away for free regardless, because I felt like writing let me live, And surprisingly, people donated. And actually, people donate more than the book costs, and it still blows me away.
Okay, amazing. Really, I'm very impressed about that as well. So, you said you built relationship and connected on deep level with your readers. Which media are you using mainly for that?
Any, really. I'm mostly active on Twitter, but I also blog. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Google+. I post pictures, lots of selfies, crazy selfies on Instagram, and I'm all over the place. And I also am open about my process, so nothing is closed off. It's a very different model. If you compare it to traditional publishing, where people don't get the book in their hands until it's done and finished. I often post, actually all the time, I post all of my drafts, I post the process, and I let people see mainly because when I started out writing, I didn't really have anyone who would hold my hand. It's not my first language, English, and it was really scary for me. And so my boyfriend helped me. He kind of believed in me with this blind belief, anything I did, he said it was great. And I said, no, it's not great. It's awful. It sucks. It's a piece of shit. And he's like, no, it's awesome. It's great. Do it. And so when he did it for me, and once I stopped being afraid, now I want to give it to other people, where sometimes just the kind word helps a writer to get out of this blues of, everything I write is awful, I'm awful, it's the end of the world, I'll never get better. So it's just, I love doing it, you get so much energy back from people just with this one little thing, just to hold their hand and tell them, hey, it's okay, I've been there, it's been awful, but I'm here, and you can get there too. And now I totally forgot what you asked me.
No, you actually answered my question.
Okay, good.
And how long did it take? Because I've seen that you have a quite big number of followers, and your armies, of fans is quite big. How long does it take to build such an audience?
I think I started about 2 years ago when I quit my career. Actually in May, I think, yeah. So it's a little bit over 2 years. And at that time, I think I had about 2,000 followers on Twitter. Now it's close to 70. So around 2 years, and I'm writing full time. I did take a break for a month. And then with the break, I had 2 consulting gigs. I did consulting for money. That also supplements my money. But that was it. So yeah, about 2 years, I think.
2 years and almost 70,000 Twitter followers. That's really impressive. You should share some tips with us, because we would like to get those numbers too.
Yeah, it took me by surprise, to be honest with you. At first I was scared, and I tried to copy what other writers did, and I tried to just be conservative and proper, because I'm really wild, and I was really scared to show it, and I thought people would think me immature and stupid, and, wouldn't take me seriously as a writer. And slowly, well, you know how it is, your nature breaks through, so it slipped a couple times I would tweet something silly, and people liked it, and I was like, oh, well, this is weird, so I do a little more, and they liked it more, and I was like, really? So slowly, over time, I stopped being afraid, and then, the less afraid I became, the more people followed, and it just kind of started to snowball at some point.
Okay, so one can't really run from himself, so eventually your true nature showed, and it was the key of success, I guess, because people liked you the way you are.
Well, that's really the only way to be a writer, I think, that's why you really write, is you want to share yourself the way you are. And that's the biggest struggle all the beginning writers have, is it's so scary to be yourself, because you look at all these other books and all these other authors and you think, well, I'm nothing like them. I'm very different, so I must be doing it wrong. And, obviously you're trying to copy first, and you go and you do the same things they do. But it's not who you are. And at first you don't believe that you have anything worth to say, because you're just a little something. You're just starting out. So that's really the only key to any of it, is just be yourself the way you are, Silly, okay, be silly. Goofy, be goofy. You like to swear, swear. You don't like to swear, don't swear. You like to post silly pictures of yourself, do it. You like to post pictures of flowers, do it. You like to talk about bagels with cream cheese every morning. Do that, because that's what this is about. You connect with other people who also love talking about bagels with cream cheese every morning. That's the beauty of it.
Oh, yeah, and I understand that by connecting with like-minded people, you end up getting this deeper level of relationship, and it gives another level of connection, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how many books do you have right now?
I have 5, but one of them is really, people ask me to do it. It's a collection of my tweets. The ones that have been retweeted the most, people said, you need to put your tweets in a book. And I said, no, I don't. It's a silly idea. They said, no, you do. And I was like, no, I don't. They said, no, you do. And I said, okay, fine. Here you go. So that's Blue Sparrow. And then I wrote my first trilogy, Siren Suicides. And it's only a trilogy because it blew up. I didn't know what I was doing, and I overwrote it a little bit. I did 5 drafts, and they just ballooned, and they wouldn't fit into one book. So it's not a traditional trilogy where you read the first book and then you pick up the second, and it gives you a little summary about what's happening in the first book, but it's its own story. It's really one book chopped into 3, and maybe one day I'll edit. So technically, you can say I really have only 2 books out because my other book was Rosehead, which in my mind is only my second novel because Siren Suicide is really just one story in my mind. So the actual physical books, yes, there are 5, but the actual novels, stories, you could say there's only 2 so far.
And you wrote them during those 2 years since you're writing full time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm almost done with my next one. I'm going to be done in about 5 weeks.
Cool, really, really great. So based on our previous conversations, I know more or less the answer, but can you share with our listeners the tips for those productivities? How do you do so that you're productive and you write as much as you do?
It's just a matter of discipline. I turn everything off. My phone is off. My internet is off. Well, I actually listen to Pandora music. I listen to really loud music when I write, but everything else is off. I don't have Facebook open or Twitter or anything like that. And my phone is off to the point where even my notifications are off. So I do, when my boyfriend is at work, he's on Skype, and my status is turned as off. So if there's an emergency, he has a way of reaching me, but literally I'm unreachable during this time when I write. And I do it every day at around 10 o'clock in the morning. I've been sleeping lately because it's summer and my son is not in school and I'm being lazy. Instead of getting up at 7, I get up at 8-ish, and so it's sliding down. I'm starting to write at 11, but that's my time, is around 10 a.m. Then I have my little routine. Just this little routine kind of puts me in the mind of writing. And the other rule I use is I don't get out of the room until I produce 2,000 words. All hell can break loose, and some days it takes me up to 9 hours when I have really bad days, but I don't get out until 2,000 words are done.
Oh, I see. So you mentioned that you have kids. You have 3 kids?
Yeah.
Am I right?
No, I have 2.
You have 2. Okay. So how do you balance the family and the personal responsibilities with the writing? I mean, if it takes, for example, 9 hours in that day to produce the 2,000 words, how do you manage the other stuff?
Well, those are the bad days. Usually it takes me 4 to 5 hours. My kids, well, my daughter's grown and she's in California. She's a graphic design student. She's 20 years old and she's doing all my book covers. So she's gone already. And my son is 11. So he's at that stage where now when I want to hang out with him, he often wants to hang out with his friends. I'm divorced with my ex and we're good friends. So our son is 1 week he's at his house, 1 week he's at mine. So on the week he is not here, I work like crazy. So then on the week when he is here, I only write for 4 hours because I can't put any more. I go pick him up from school, come back, and I wait until, we talk about homework or some other things, eat together or something. And then when he's off playing with his friends or doing something on his own, then I put myself back in the mode, and sometimes I finish what I wrote. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes my mind gets too distracted, and it's dinner time, cooking time, family time, and I'm just like, whatever, I can't do it anymore. So those are the weeks when it's a little bit tougher, but I've learned to break in the middle. It used to be really, really tough where I couldn't break and just go somewhere, I would lose it. But now I can actually even talk to people, and I have a mask. Literally, I have stuff going on in the back of my head. So what I'm learning is to write anywhere at any time for any period of time, So even if I'm stranded somewhere and I have 15 minutes, I can write. I'm not quite there yet, but that's really the key, I think. It's this discipline of being able to just shut out the world anywhere and just write.
I see. And did you always wanted to become a writer, or it happened just somehow because you had this idea of a book and you started writing it, or how did your writing journey start?
I didn't think about becoming a writer. My father is a writer. I loved books since I was very little. I never thought about something like writing books. But I would always imagine stories in my head. I always had these magical realism sort of / fantasy daydreams. I was a really good student in school, but I've been always reprimanded for bad behavior because I'd always be aloof somewhere, looking out the window, thinking about something else, and teachers didn't like it. And then I started writing a diary when I was 15 because I went to a house of literary writers in Moscow. I'm from Moscow, Russia, and a writer was giving a lecture, and he said, well, it's really useful to do a diary because then you can see how uselessly you spent your day when you read it. And I was like, well, that's a very positive thing to say. And I came, Russia, you can tell, it's mostly sarcasm most of the time. So I came home and I just started writing a diary. And I wrote it for 2 years. And then I ran away from home when I was 16. I got pregnant at 17 and married at 18 and had kind of a crazy life. So then I had to put everything on hold. So it was not later until when my son was born. Well, when my daughter was born, I taught her to read, but I was too busy because I was studying architecture. But when my son was born, I wanted to teach him to read, and I was already here in America. And I started getting back into just drawing cards for him with words. And then I started doing animations. Then I did a startup company because people told me, oh, you can make, educational cartoons. And for that company, I had to be an entrepreneur and write marketing newsletters. And I remember people telling me, oh, yours are the only ones that I actually read. I wrote a business plan. I won some prize. And I thought, well, this is weird. I've never written a business plan before in my life. So I guess I've always been a storyteller. I just never, I was brought up thinking in Russian schools, the teachers never really liked my essays. They said, you're imagining too much. I could never get A's, so I always thought, I'm bad at this. I didn't understand why people liked it.
In the Soviet times, I can imagine because I'm from Armenia as well, so I've been in that system. So discouraging people was very easy, especially at school. Children were not encouraged, and the creativity was not encouraged at all. So I can imagine that being creative in those times was quite difficult. And you had to fight people back in that sense, yeah?
Yeah, and I guess I didn't think of it as something that I wanted to pursue really hard. So I just shrugged my shoulders and I thought, okay, well, I won't try again, and I got on with life. But then they always try to break through me, later. I did a movie, I wrote a script and I did a movie because I went to a film festival here in Seattle. And I saw a film that I really liked, and they said, the director is here, and out comes this girl in her 20s. She's like, oh, yeah, I did a bunch of credit cards with a bunch of friends. I did this movie. I'm like, wait a second, you can do it, I can do it. I just got this wild idea. I thought, I can do a movie. And I did, and then it was the weirdest thing ever. So I wrote a script. I did some studying of script writing because when I do something, I always try to learn as much as I can about it. And I realized I'm not very good at it. I always wanted to start describing things, which is not script writing. So I bent it in again. It took really for me to go really low in my life to remembering some horrendous things from my childhood and some abuse in my family and me becoming suicidal and depressive to really finally realizing that I really want to write. I wanted to write to get rid of the pain, so I started blogging. This blog is hidden right now. There's probably 150,000 words in there, so it's probably a whole book, and maybe one day I'll get back to it. But it's very, very painful. I was writing about my experiences of getting out of being suicidal, and so somebody suggested that I should just journal about it. Actually, my therapist, I think. And so that's how I started. I started writing for therapy. Started looking for writers groups just for some support. And then I started looking I was like, oh, people are writing novels. And really, it was bizarre. I just never even thought about it. And I started writing it. And then my writers group people said, oh, this is really great. And I said, no, it can't be great. It's not my first language. I never studied it. you guys, you don't know what you're saying. So it took me a long time to believe that I could do it.
So you really had big writer's doubts at the beginning, and you had different struggles. And what was the thing that helped you overcome those most, besides your boyfriend? Was there anything else?
I just am stubborn. Since I was a little girl, I think that's how I survived, because most of my family is in disarray. They've had a hard life, most of them, and now in the ex-Soviet Union, you can imagine. Some of them are living below poverty, and some are sometimes in and out of mental institutions. And I've just kind of shot out of it and left the country, made it here, and so I've just been stubborn. I don't know if it's genetic or what it is, but I remember I was beaten when I was small, and I would cry and I would be silent. And I thought, you just keep doing it and I will show you. I will show you, and I will not make a noise. And I remember it annoyed those people so much. So where did I get that from? I don't know. But I was just stubborn.
Oh, I see. So, what is coming next for you? Are you planning to continue writing full time? Do you have new projects once you finish this book, which is coming out? You said it will be ready in 5 weeks, I guess. What's coming next?
Well, in 5 weeks, my final draft will be done, and then I'm sending it to the editor. So actually, after the actual publication date, I don't know, because I don't know what her schedule is like. So it might take another, couple months after that, plus the JAC plan and all this. But as soon as I'm done with this one, I'm starting writing my next one. I have 8 novels outlined already, and I can't wait to finish this one, because this one, it's called Irkutsk, and it's actually about my experiences of being pregnant and leaving house and being sort of homeless when I was 17 in Moscow, when the constitutional crisis happened and the whole country collapsed, and it was pure chaos. And, so it's painful. But one of my really great friends and mentors, writer who's much older than me, who's kind of helping me out with advice here and there, he listened to my personal story and he said, you need to write this into a book. I got really excited, and then I was like, oh God, I hate this. Because I have to go back into what I ran away from, and so I just, I want to be done with it and write my next book, which is more like Rosehead, funny. It's about kids jumping in and out of 30 different books. They find the corners in the world, and you can turn a corner, like a corner of a page, and you drop into this other book world, and you have to get out of it. And so it's all very fun and interesting. And what I'm writing right now is very, very painful. So
it really requires a lot of courage to write about yourself, especially if you had such a painful experiences in the past, and knowing also that many people, especially people you don't know, will be reading it. I mean, it's just not everyone would be able to do that.
Well, yeah, but it's also fiction. I mean, some of the facts and some of the things I'm mentioning them in the book, of course, are based on my life, but most of it is fictionalized. So this is the beauty of writing books. You can write whatever you want without being afraid of offending people or people in your life, although they might recognize themselves and pursue you anyway. But I'm past this point of caring. They do fine. It's really the truth and really what happened. And so I just wanted to show what it felt like to try to survive in that world and not go crazy. And the character in this book battles with this, is constantly on the edge. And so in a way, it is therapy for me. It's just that, every day, I close the door and I go into it, and I have to pump myself, really get myself in the mood to get back into this place of being a teenager and pregnant and hating everything and everyone, because this book is a lot about this, place where it's black and white. It's either everything is great or everything is awful, and on the background of political conflict, so it's almost historical, so I have to go and dig up all these facts and read about it again. Like even today I was looking at pictures of Soviet apartments because I was trying to remember the interior, how a typical interior looked, and I literally had physical pain in my stomach. I'm serious, just from looking at these desolate, dismal places, and I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe this, and so I have to do it every day until I'm done with this book, and I'll be done really soon. I'm so excited.
Okay, yeah, not much left as far as I understand. Really, really great. So this podcast is mainly created to inspire and encourage writers who haven't started writing yet because they had some doubts, or writers who already started but need some encouragement to continue and to push ahead. So for someone who has, for example, a book in their mind but they have too many doubts and they don't believe in themselves, or they just don't know where to start and how to start, what would be your big advice? What should they do? How would you motivate and encourage, or any specific tips for starting?
Just write it for yourself. If you have a story, just don't think about it being published or anyone reading it. Almost like a diary. When you know that nobody's going to read it, you stop being ashamed or afraid, or it doesn't bother you anymore if you say something in it and you're afraid somebody's going to read it and think it's bad writing or bad story. Just write it for yourself, for your own enjoyment, the way you would enjoy it, and read every day. Write every day, read every day. If you can, for at least 4 hours writing every day, 2 hours of reading. If not, at least 1 hour of writing every day and at least half an hour of reading. Read beautiful things. Read things that inspire you. Do not read something that's just everybody's telling you need to read, or everybody's reading and you open it and it's just not yours. It doesn't mean that the book is bad. It's just not yours. Every book is great because every book, even if only the writer read it as he wrote it, made that writer feel good. So it's already great. And that's what I find in my work too. If I have trouble reading something and it just doesn't makes me want to fly, my writing suffers. But if I'm reading something that's amazing and it fuels me, my writing improves. So it's almost like writers holding your hand and telling you, look, this is how you can turn this sentence. This is how you do this word. So this is really all there is to it. Don't worry about anyone. Write for yourself every day and read every day.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ksenia. It was a really nice interview. Actually, quite original one. It's a bit different from all the others, but I think that's because you are different from the others as well. Yes, absolutely. I meant it in a positive way. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the interview. Thank you for spending the time and talking to my listeners. I really appreciate that. I wish you much success with your new book and with the upcoming 8 books you're planning to write. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Well, that was it for today. I really hope that you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Before I say goodbye, I would like to remind you that you still can get your thank you gifts from me if you have reviewed my podcast. For all the details, please visit www.anniealexander.com/free. Have a nice day and see you in the next episode.